Hi everyone, I'm Nikki and I make dolls and stuff. Today's video is the last installment in the Bernadette / Bruno series, and today we're going to be making Bruno. Today is not going to be my typical doll customizing video. It's going to be more of a creature creation. I've made some creatures in the past. I've made some wolves, dogs, cats, owls, dragons. I've made some stuff anyway, but I really felt like this was going to be kind of a challenge. I hadn't done it in a while, so I was looking on YouTube, and a girl that I follow for a while, KP Creations, makes really amazing stuff, and you could check her out, KP Creations, here on YouTube. I don't know her, she just seems really nice and her stuff is good, and I needed a pro. That being said, what I'd really like to also say is thank you for clicking on this video. And what I'd like from you guys is some input, some serious input. What do you think would make my channel better? What would you like to see in future videos? I read the comments, whether they're good or bad. So please put something down there. And that's it. And without further ado, I'm gonna send you over to the voiceover and the thing I made. All right, see you soon.
So here we are. Here is my mock-up drawing for Bruno. I was kind of going for some elongated limbs, kind of like a Salvador Dali painting. Just not that crazy. But first off, I needed a refresher on what dogs' feet look like. Can I see your feet? This was not very helpful, but I tried. So off camera, I made this armature. It's just some soft wire, some clay, and some hot glue. So I'm still a little bit of a noob to APOXIE Sculpt. APOXIE Sculpt. Nobody wants to sculpt things with epoxy, Nikki. But I'm gonna do my best to try to make it work. You don't realize how weird dogs' feet are until you have to sculpt them. But they're still the cutest little feetsies. So I've sculpted a bunch of feet before in the past with Sculpy, but it doesn't dry as hard nearly as APOXIE Sculpt. I'm sculpting the hind feet before. I'm not going to attach them right away because I want to get the body situated, but I just want them to go ahead and harden. I'm drilling a couple of holes in the head just to kind of make place markers so I know where the ears should be. So starting with the face sculpt, I start off on a hard base so I have a little structure under there so it's not just squishing under my fingertips. Off camera, I know you can't see, but I've got some pictures pulled up of Doberman pincers. Pincers? Anyway, when you think of a tough dog, that's pretty much the dog you think of. I'm not sure how a Yorkie grows up to be a Doberman. I definitely wanted to challenge myself with this, and I thought a more fierce version of Bruno, for some reason, would be a Doberman pincer. So I wanted his ears to have a little flexibility, so I got some cosclay. And if you don't know what cosclay is, it's a clay that you bake that has some kind of rubbery quality to it so that it's less rigid and more flexible. I was going for an elongated ear, kind of like the dog from the movie Ricca, if you've ever seen that, except with a Tim Burton twist to it. So that's done, and now onto the legs. I wanted to add a little strength and muscle under the batting to kind of emulate the muscles on a dog's leg. What I didn't realize in the future was that you're not going to see that under the fluff. I'm using Gorilla hot glue to secure the legs to the feet because gorillas are awesome. So now we're onto the batting, and basically what you do is you take quilting batting and you just wrap it around as much as you can and try to build up the body. And you try not to do it too much because then it can make the body look a little bulky. And this particular dog, I wanted to look kind of sleek, like he was on a pretty good exercise regimen. Truth be told, I like a little chub on my pets. It makes for good belly rubbins. Now we're on to the fur. I didn't want it to be fluffy. I wanted it to be kind of smooth and shiny. And I found this velvety, stretchy material at Walmart, which I thought was perfect because it's going to stretch and it'll be able to be like tight on the body. So basically I make a square and then pop holes in the square and then pull the legs through and then sew it all together. Now I'm not the greatest at sewing and I'm kind of all over the place with this, but I get to the point eventually. So I kind of approached the legs like they were sleeves on a jacket and just made some tubes kind of bigger at the end so I could attach it to the body. Well, that's not a very attractive angle. I think for me, the hardest part of this was attaching the legs to where the hips go. That seemed to be a bit much. And then lastly, I'm going to attach the hind feet back onto him. Looking back on this, I realized that he needed some more girth in his booty area, and I put that on later. And just starting the doggy face up, I know some of you are going to be like, why are you painting it black? It's already black. But I wanted there to be a smooth transition between the black fur and the colorful fur that I'm going to add later. I also wanted him to have some armor. And I'm using something, this is actually not what it's supposed to be for. This is actually like a stencil for, I don't even know what it's a stencil for, but it looked really cool. And I thought that if I cut it and kind of curled it in a certain way, it would look like very fanciful armor. And it was easy enough to just cut it and curl it and just attach it to his leg. I think that's gonna look really cool later when I finally get him all dressed and suited up. Finally, I get to add some color. So I first start by laying down some white so that the color that I apply over the dark fabric will pop. And then I use a red spray to create a gradient from the toes on up. Looking pretty snazzy, my friend. Looking pretty snazzy. So in keeping with the fire theme, I wanted his ears to kind of look like flames. So I started them off from red to a yellowy gradient. By the way, all the supplies I use are going to be listed in the description. So generally I use golden paints and golden inks. They're pretty good. I have no complaints. Actually, I do have one complaint, and that is that they dry kind of shiny, but I think that pretty much gets taken care of if you spray on some Mr. Super Clear afterwards. Okay, I know I'm all over the place, but this is actually really how I work. So just to start getting his features to pop, I'm going to eventually use pastels on them. I started down with a layer of paint to kind of give me a guide. And then I start blending out the features with pastels. Pincers have some really interesting coloring, and I'm trying to emulate that, but just using more fantasy colors. I think they call it phantom coloring. You'll see it in other dogs too. I've seen other dogs with this kind of coloring, where the eyebrows and under the chin are a lighter color than the rest of the dog's face. A lot of the colors I do here, I have to do twice because once they dried or once I sprayed them with Mr. Super Clear, they kind of disappeared a little bit, so I had to redo them. I'm gonna add some kind of like stripes, but they're almost like fiery stripes on the sides of his face, and I think that kind of gives a lot of character to this guy. The whole time I'm making him, I'm thinking of a fiery theme, so I'm just trying to stay in line that whole time with just, you know, images of fire and flames and magic. Just a tiny little break from doing the face. I made some ringlets with some red wire, and I found this really cool studded looking ribbon, and I'm going to create a harness with that when I finally get him ready to get dressed. back to the face. I'm finally getting to those eyes. And to make eyes look like they're almost glowing, you want to start with a darker color in the background and then build it up to a light color. It almost has like a neon effect. At this point, I decided that his stripes should also be a gradient, just like his ears. And so I'm going in. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make these stripes look gradient. Anyway, so then to finish it up, I am going to spray paint the ears like a fading yellow, so it looks a little bit more cohesive. And for the harness, so I wanted this to be regal and fierce at the same time, like a watchdog. I found some elegant pieces in the scrapbooking section, and I linked everything together with the red rings I created from the red wire. Just trying everything on him as I went, cutting off what needed to get cut off. Eventually it all started to come together. At this point in time, I started to realize that he kind of looks like a heavy metal dog, like a heavy metal rock band dog, and that was not exactly what I was going for, but he did look fierce. I kind of liked it. In addition to the harness, I added some chains. The original doggy did have chains. The doll herself had chains. There was a lot of chains involved. All right, now we're gonna start with his harness. I'm not really sure what you'd call this fashion. I don't know what you want to call this, but I struggled for a really long time trying to figure out what to make this out of, and I kind of just came up with foam. Just foam, because I knew I could curl it and I knew I could do things with it. So it's looking pretty good so far. Normally I would not use foam if I was going to give this to a client or, a commission or something. But for the task at hand, it works quite well. Here I'm using a heat gun to kind of curl up the sides, make it look a little bit more organic. If you've not seen my other video, this dog is actually a companion to a doll, and I wanted to be able to marry the two, the dog and the doll together, so I did the paint job kind of like her wings, so that it made a little bit more sense when you see them together, because they are a unit, a couple, a family. What do you call them? I don't know. Finishing up his harness, I did use some gold mica powders to give it a bit more shine. And to finish him up, I added a lot of rhinestones to his legs. I wanted them to look like they were actually growing from his legs. And I added some red fur to the back of his hind legs. I originally wanted his legs to look like they were on fire, but I couldn't really figure out how to do that with it being safe. So finally coming up on the reveal, I really liked how this doll came out. It came out way better than I had expected, and yay! I just want you to know I'm really thankful that you made it to this point in the video. This was my first voiceover through an entire video ever, so please let me know how I did in the comments. I was kind of nervous about it. So that being said, that's it for this time. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video. And please subscribe, because it's nice. Bye, guys.